Hey everybody, welcome to the Home Care Forum podcast with your hosts, Sasha, Guillaume, and Emina Poricanin. I hope you guys have been enjoying the new podcast, the new branding, new everything. Keep following, liking, subscribing to YouTube. Really appreciate it. We are still putting up the posts on Patreon for those who prefer to listen instead of watching. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. Emina, how is it going?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for another week. Hope everyone's doing well. Lots of exciting news to share with you today. On my front, things are just as busy as ever, and I'll share some of what is keeping home care providers up at night and busy these days. But first, I want to turn it over to Sasha to kick off some of the developments as we finish up the legislative session in New York. It is quite the scene over in Albany. So, Sasha, let's hit it off.
Clock is ticking. We have a little bit of good news this week. In the Assembly, the bill 5115 by Steve Stern modernizing worker wage parity compliance, which would allow an unaudited report from your accountant to be used instead of an audited report, right? Basically, a financial statement from your accountant would be used to certify this requirement, which would save the agencies thousands of dollars in administrative fees. Looks like it's moving forward out of the assembly and will be coming up for a vote. So that is good news on the horizon.
So, this is indeed good news for those of you who are not as familiar with the tortured history of these certifications. The state passed a requirement that LICSAs, CHAs, and MLTCs certify as to the information of hours, wages, rates, benefits that are being provided by wage parity covered agencies. And that passed, gosh, 2020. That passed as we were in the throes of COVID, and it has been confusion ever since because the legal requirement was for the agency to prepare its books and then have the accountant sign off on them in accordance with general accounting principles. Now, the problem with that is that accountants typically don't sign off on documents like this and in this format. So the state really got it wrong with this language by putting this accounting standard on the accountants in the law. And they've been trying to change this for 5 years. Every few months, a client will call me and tell me, hey, this MLTC is asking me to certify this. Are they not aware that this is still a problem, that the state is trying to fix it, and we have to re-educate the MLTC? All of that should go away once this is established. So, as Sasha said, this is indeed good news. Way to go to kick it off. Good news.
Great. Next, not so great news or no news, uh, meaning that the next few are stuck in committee. The transparency and sustainability home care rates, which would establish regional rates, which would be great, and transparency into the payment structure. That's still, again, stuck in committee, and we don't know. As we had Alyssa Lovelace on, likely not to go anywhere. The repeal of the RFO, likely not to go anywhere, stuck in committee. Another note, something that the governor and legislature are discussing, which is probably among the reasons why the delays for the budget not passing, is the possibility of a fall session, emergency session due to shortfalls in the state budget as a result of the actions taking place at the federal level. I'm surprised. I guess I'm surprised that it hasn't happened at the federal level. I would have thought that Trump would have had the Republicans in line before this move to the Senate. That's usually a rule that the Republicans hold to, but it's not happening in this case. New York State is a net contributor in taxes for the federal government, and we support many other red states who are, negative in that. And if you've been following the news, there's been some chaos in California, LA specifically. And with that, the administration has taken the opportunity to take some pot shots at California, stating that it's going to withhold federal funding. To which Governor Gavin Newsom came back and educated the administration that the fact of the matter is California is a net contributor to the federal government, and they could just withhold the funds that they're sending to the federal government, right? So it's been quiet since. But I don't know if that's the right move, though it is reassuring that as New Yorkers, if it push came to shove, we would be able to be self-sustaining, and hopefully these threats don't come to fruition because the last time this happened, it was the southern states making these threats, which ended up in conflict and arms being taken up. So, and obviously there
Civil War
was a constitutional.
specifically, Sasha.
Yeah, yes,
Civil War
yes.
specifically.
I don't want to say Civil
I
War.
don't know why you are
Yeah,
introducing this and then
yeah.
tiptoeing around it. Just
Because
say it what it is. The point is California and New
yeah.
York pay more in federal taxes than what we receive from the federal government. That may be generally true, but as far as Medicaid and our provider listeners are concerned, Medicaid is still funded by those federal dollars. And we have heard Hochul repeatedly saying that Medicaid, all Medicaid programs, not just home care, are in trouble. I don't know that her tune has changed, and I think you're going to talk about the implications of what's happening at the federal level on the budget and the possible reopener.
So, right, Amina. So, this is why the governor and the legislators, again, I think one of the reasons why they haven't closed, she's looking for the authority to come back and institute probably a 250 million dollars cuts to the Medicaid program, or rather to the budget, which would adversely impact the Medicaid program and our industry, without having to go back and calling for votes, right? She wants a preemptive authority to do this. And I'm not sure the legislature is ready to give her that level of authority. Again, I think it's a smart move on her part as an executive. And the details of that are still up for discussion, delaying the budget. Next, with the governor being in this position, she is in a precarious position related to her reelection, though she is still the front runner. In an article that recently came out from the Capitol Confidential, Assemblymember Lawler looks to be the front runner and possible most competitive candidate on the other side to take her on. I don't necessarily agree with Capital Confidential on this. This was an article by Dan Clark. And the reason being is that Lawler did sign on to the Big Beautiful Bill, rebranded as the Big Ugly Bill by the Democrats. And once the monies are being spent to advertise that Lawler was part of this big ugly bill and the impacts to New York State, I'm sure that his position in the polls will be affected by that, and she's likely to sail. I think the only possible challenge to the governor would be in the primaries. I'm not sure anybody's strong enough, and possible challenge to her would be from the left, and but the candidates can't go too far left, like, as this is a statewide vote. So more likely than not, the governor will be reelected.
How about uh, Eloise Stefanik? Did you see the back and forth hearing yesterday in DC between?
I didn't see the hearing. Stefanik has, from the conversations I've had, she has some name recognition, but she just doesn't have enough firepower behind her, not enough money behind her. The governor is holding on to a war chest, and I think that just gets her over. Maybe we're, as an industry, we're a bit conflicted because we were directly impacted. but she can sell the fact that she's saving money to to the public, to New Yorkers, saving them on taxes, waste, fraud, and abuse. And if we weren't able to sell the other legislators on the negative impacts to the patients, recipients, and their constituents, I think she survives.
I know, but there were also so many consumers, patients, patient advocates affected. This derailment of the CDPAP was really a disaster, and I do think that her reputation suffered. I don't know if you saw, but there was a consumer direct advocate who worked for one of the capital region based nonprofits for a long time, and she died this week. And I saw that the personal assistant and consumer groups that I occasionally join and look into, they were blaming her death on the PPL transition because she was left without adequate PA support. I don't know the truth of it. I actually personally knew this woman. May she rest in peace. And I was surprised that she died. She wasn't an older woman, she was disabled. And as much as she was an advocate and worked for one of the nonprofit CD Pass companies, she was also a patient, a consumer in the
Mhm.
program. And so her death is being blamed on the PPL transition. So I honestly am curious to see how the governor will fare with all of this. She ruffled a lot of feathers with this CDPAP thing. I know she is a political war chest mastermind. She's got a lot of fundraising ability. I just got invited to a fundraiser for her next week. I'm not sure I will attend, but I don't know if that surpasses all of this bad press. We'll see.
Everything you just said, it's probably timely, the release of the article in City and State touting PPL and their high customer satisfaction, right? They want to get out ahead of or release this in response to this high profile death. Again, very noticeable in our industry, and I'm sure this will come back up in the general election, if not in the primary. But the article was touting the consumer and caregiver satisfaction with the transition, which is as opposed to the critics who have claimed mishandling in the transition. The carrying majority had prepared their own survey of a little less than 500 patients and caregivers which showed a 50% dissatisfaction, a small sample size, but again, 50% dissatisfaction with the process, and again, touting ongoing issues with payroll as a result of the transition. So mixed bag, this war of publicity is happening to put a spin, if you will, on what's happening with the transition. Well, let's move on to other elective news in New York City, where Cuomo is holding on to his 10% lead in the polls for the New York City mayoral race. And we speak about the mayoral race because there are some healthcare or home care specific opportunities or grants and things that are controlled by the city. So whomever is in that office does have an impact in HRA and things like that, right? So though Cuomo is holding on to a 10% lead, Mandani, who is making a move from the left, he is a self-proclaimed socialist and is quietly gaining some support from some New Yorkers, right? This is following his debate performance where to me, seemingly he's turning, I guess, a not so got you moment into an opportunity and then he was further helped by Cuomo's gaffe, where he fumbled his order of the famous deli breakfast sandwich in New York, calling it a bacon, cheese, and egg sandwich as opposed to bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, which it's entertaining, right? For everybody who saw that. I think he is out of touch, and I don't want to discount Mandani. I think he is leveraging that opportunity, though the socialist label is likely to negatively impact him.
What do you think a New York City council looks like under the direction of Cuomo. I mean, he's definitely made enemies everywhere, and I'm sure those folks are still in some important positions in the city.
Yeah, I mean, he did not take well to de Blasio when he was in office, and anybody carrying over may be impacted. I don't know how his race impacts their races, but look, politics is politics. People fall in line. He definitely doesn't have the statewide power, but being mayor of one of the largest cities in the country, it does have some power, at least downstream.
All right, so moving on, let's talk a little bit about what providers are doing now that the dust is starting to settle on this whole consumer direct transition. And MLTCs are announcing even bigger cuts. There are a lot of providers who are worried about how they will survive over the next several years. I can't tell you how many calls I'm having with agencies who are looking for ideas from me about how to grow their agencies. And yesterday I got to the point of telling someone, look, if I knew how to make a lot of money in home care, I definitely would be on the provider side and not on the legal advisor side. So I am now going to be here telling you how to be a business person and run this business, right? Some good old hard work is always recommended, and I don't know. I mean, do you feel like the industry has gotten lazy? There's definitely operators here who have bought their way and who have done the easy route, and maybe they're just getting what they deserve. I'm curious
Yeah,
because
yeah. I mean, look,
what you think about that.
yeah. So I'll give you something I did personally this week. Went to the Department of Health website and I just started reading policies and procedures and regulations because I wanted to buttress what I had understood and clear up any discrepancies or thoughts or things that I believed were the case and may not have been the case. I actually, after this meeting, after I'd done all that work, I'm still going to have a meeting with an industry expert to make sure that I understand it fully. So those are the differentiators, right? So for those who were gifted an agency, if if you don't if you don't know that it happens, I've heard that it's a wedding gift. You marry my son or daughter, and here you go. Here's an agency. That person may or may not be as dedicated to understanding the agency. The fact that there are consultants galore, you can hire somebody and they come and do the work for you. These things happen. I think I answered the question in the way that your statements were alluding to.
I guess my question more poignantly was, are there people who are lazy and just not working? You got to work in your business. You want to
Yeah,
grow,
yeah,
go
well,
out there.
yeah, they're not, but they're
Okay,
not doing it. You can hire a consultant to do it for you.
okay, so that's laziness. As
Yes.
someone who built businesses with my own bare hands, my own time, my own sleepless nights. My God, I'm still in that sleepless night phase. Just as before we signed on, I was telling Sasha, I'm too old for this. You, and I jokingly refer to myself as a hustler, but the hustling takes its toll. It is a young person's game. Okay. And Sasha and I are getting up in age. So, where's this next generation of hustlers who are honest, who have integrity, who actually want to work? I mean, how many times have you and I talked about it is very difficult to hire someone who is honest, hardworking, and teachable. They come in here with their TikTok education, their TikTok, diploma, and then they want to tell you how to do things. And it's like, no, you got your knowledge off of TikTok? Go try to make money on TikTok. This is the real world. We deal with real people, especially in home care, where you are dealing with people who often don't even have a smartphone, right? It is not that demographic. You have to service these people. Okay. You can't send them an email and a link with instructions to a YouTube tutorial. No, you actually have to speak to these people in an educated manner, in a humane manner, in a supportive manner. These are patients or employees who just insist on talking to you via text and email. No, look me in the eye and tell me what went wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's TikTok University, there is ChatGPT University or ChatGPT Consultant, and uh, while we were printing flyers earlier this week, right? Because you still need to
Mhm.
get out there in this industry. So I'm all for technology. I am implementing that while understanding that we're not, that far removed from the grassroots work that's needed. So yeah, it's a little bit of both. The transition will take longer than we're thinking. A lot of conversation this week about artificial intelligence not living up to the hype. So
Yeah,
a lot of people are stepping back, and if you were looking to use it to replace, the mindset needs to be more of using it as a tool. And then, interesting, I mentioned how I was reading the regs. I simultaneously I was plugging things into chat, but I was able to connect and see what was accurate, what was not. But so if you're not doing that, if you're, show your work as the
right.
teachers say.
You got to
That
double check it.
that's important. Don't just build a business plan on what an artificial intelligence, a large language model tells you.
You want
There,
to hear something funny? I am representing this group who is getting into home care, and I got a term sheet, and I could see it was ChatGPT generated because I know what their font looks like, right? And they're like, "Oh, this is the final agreement. This final agreement has no signatories, doesn't say who is getting paid, who are the parties, who's the buyer, who's the seller. Is there an entity we're buying into? Are we creating a new entity? How much? When? What are the conditions for payment?" Like all of these basics, no. And then I was like, here's what's wrong with this. I go back and I'm still getting crap. I was like, can I please speak to a human? Because you are my client. Stop putting my communication into ChatGPT and asking it to prepare a message for me. That is not how this works. It is a bit refreshing to know I will not be replaced probably in my lifetime and the experience I have by this machine. But it is just unbelievable how much people are starting to over rely on that. And that part of the brain, by the way, that part of the brain that works by being challenged is just getting dumber and dumber the more that they rely on this technology. So, but to be clear, I am one of the first people that will say this is appropriate to start in ChatGPT. For example, I am writing new code for work. Where do you think I'm going to go to have typed up the requirements? I'm not typing them up. My secretary is not typing them up. I am dictating, here's what we need, spit it out for me. And then I get a first, second, or third draft, and then I go in there and really start taking it apart and editing it. But no, it really needs to be a tool, not a replacement for what you're doing. But back to the question we were talking about, the challenges of the industry. Yes, there are challenges, but what is new? There's always been challenges in this industry. It's one thing after another. I don't know that this is unprecedented. So, this is what I tell people. You need to be the one, this is your business, not mine. You need to be the one that sits down and takes a hard look at where your expenses are, where you're making money, streamline your operations, reduce costs, and expand on what works, right? Figure out methodically, surgically what works, and then expand on that. Go there. And then if something does not work, put it aside and move on instead of trying to make money off of that. Respectfully, my impression is people want easy answers and easy solutions, and they're not willing to put in the time to nurture and cultivate these businesses. Sorry, that is always a losing strategy. Being lazy is always going to lead to bad results. Just to, pinpoint this because I keep getting this question. Are we going to get more money? No. That is what Sasha and I talk about almost every week on this podcast. You should realize that there is no certainty in home care, but one thing that is certain is that you will keep getting less money. If you get more money, if you get some bump, it is because of your hard work, because you referred a lot of patients to the MLTCs. There's no secret anymore that this is how it works. You need to work hard, cultivate a case, your book of business, and have a good partnership with the MLTC in order to be rewarded. However, generally speaking, you should just expect cuts. That's it. Because MLTCs want to keep that money too, you know, and there's just less of it to go around. As we just talked about, the governor wants to be able to reopen even this budget and look at it again. She's committed to spending certain things, but down the line in 2025, depending on what happens at the federal level, she may be completely ripping that up apart. She may have no other choice. So, folks, take a hard look at your business. Don't necessarily ask your lawyer for the roadmap. You are better business people than the lawyers. Maybe not me. Just kidding. Just kidding. But think and search hard within yourself about what you could do with your business. However, I will say also this, surprisingly, despite the moans and groans, I can't tell you that I've ever been this busy with new LHCSA applications. I don't know what is happening. It is not just the folks who were fiscal intermediaries. Those have already landed somewhere. They figured it out, okay? No, these are brand new people coming into New York, coming into the industry. They are, as usual, many of them are nurses who think things could have been better. They are business people who see this as a solid investment and have no knowledge about the numbers. But I have so much deal activity on my desk right now, as well as LHCSA applications where there is a need and there isn't a need under the New York DOH guidelines. Folks, you are welcome to call me. I appreciate it, but it's a little bit inconsistent, right? We've got the long timers who are complaining that this is a very difficult industry, and we've got all of this new blood coming in because the message out there is that home care is a good way to make a living as an entrepreneur. Is
Yeah,
it?
I
Is
mean,
it still a good way to make money for someone who doesn't have, maybe, I don't know, like this doesn't require a medical degree.
well, listen, I think if I were starting an agency again, I would have liked to have been a nurse. So
Hmm.
the nurses coming into this business, I would put my money on them before the business side because then you carry that overhead if you're taking a salary, right? From day one. If you don't have deep pockets and you're a nurse, you can make this thing work. Right? You need some level of, but you can make this thing work, grow slowly, surely, provide quality service, and you'll eventually make it to a point where you're doing well without having a tremendous book of business or a census. But if you're coming in as a business person, as admin, which is how I got into the business, wow, it's thinking about starting that over is daunting, right? But yeah, well, welcome to it. Welcome to the podcast if you're new to it. And hopefully we can welcome you to our new association and advocacy group, FAIR.
Before you go and promote FAIR, let me just use that little plug-in and expand on it because I really should be telling all these clients who are calling me and who want to get into home care but don't know how. I guess I should be telling them the first thing to do is, after hiring me, of course, is that they need to listen to our
Yes.
podcast. Why haven't I done this before? It's a great
Yeah,
idea.
for
Plug,
sure.
plug, plug.
Yeah,
Okay, very good.
sure.
Thanks for the idea.
Yes.
All right,
And
sorry. Tell us
so
about your fair initiative. I'm very excited about it.
yeah, so first is to retain Emina. Second is to subscribe to YouTube or Patreon. And third is to register or you can contact me about FAIR. We can send you the one pager. Fair Access Initiative. We've been established. We are waiting for the IRS letter for the tax deferment, but we're established. Again, we're taking pledges. We'll be gearing up to change how advocacy is done in New York State, right? And especially in the home care industry specifically, we're looking to involve the plans and the unions where it makes sense, right? Again, I want to where it makes sense from the outside looking in. If our advocacy aligns, perfect, we'll work with them. But they're not directing what we're doing. We want to involve those along the continuum of care for our patients, So we want the patients involved. We want the home health aides, the caregivers, including the family members involved, to help us advocate. But we are a provider-focused association. We want to get involved at the front end instead of constantly responding and being reactive to what's happening in Albany. Our think tank should be top of mind to the legislators for anything to do with bills that impact or involve the industry. We want to partner with legislators uh, to contemplate where cuts can be made, where the efficiencies are, and also partner with them with stuff like transformational grants and bringing money from the federal government to New York, so that we can fund our programs and again benefit the industry. Look, if we are involved in bringing the money to the states, I think we will have the opportunity to direct where those monies go. So, lastly, we will not be afraid to be litigious. Everything that we're doing on the advocacy side and collaboration side is not working. Well, we'll have to go that route. And this is needed now, right? If we still have the LHCSA RFO on the horizon, it's looming out there, and sitting on the sidelines is not something that we can consider, right? If you are one of those people who just want to sit on the sidelines and let other people do it for you, again, I want to keep repeating this. This is not the first or the last time you've heard it. Well, how did the CDPAP RFO work out for you sitting on the sidelines? So let's get involved. You're following us, you're listening to us now. Uh, Reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll send you the one pager. I think I'll post the one pager to the Home Care Forum podcast site and my own personal page. So a lot of people get the links to the podcast there and get involved. It's going to be reasonable. We're not going to be admin heavy, but I think we have something here, and we're getting a lot of people interested. We're getting a lot of pledges. We'll be setting up something soon. Hopefully, we can get involved on the elections and all the advocacy in July. That's the target right now. We're meeting with the CRMs and all the operational stuff. We're gearing that up. But join us, please.
Let me ask you this. You are out and about and always hustling, and you tell me about people approaching you and bringing you in on these opportunities. Is that something you recommend to others? Or maybe you want to keep the information for yourself? Although it's a no-brainer. If you want work, you got to go out there and get it. You are not going to get it by having Zoom meetings. Business to business is still a face-to-face approach. As much as, you and I talk on this and WhatsApp, we see each other pretty often, and I'm out all the time. Same for you, correct?
Right, right. Look, I
You
mean,
have to be out there.
yeah. Listen, I'll take you back to when I first joined the industry. Right, I came
Hmm.
from outside of healthcare. So
Hmm.
my transition occurred because I read the policies and procedures that we wrote during the con process. I was able to answer questions that the nurse couldn't answer at our site visit. And then when I was able to come out from underwater, because in the beginning it's go go go. Uh, I thought going to the organizations or associations that are speaking about home care would benefit us as a company. So I started getting involved in that, and then I invested in our staff, and I started bringing them along. When our management were able to sit in on these meetings, it allowed me to step out and have the meetings in the corridors. From a business development sense, that helps out a lot. Listen, I was able to get a contract in the hallway of one of these events because MCO associate was there. So those are key. There are many opportunities that actually come through the vendors. There's a big opportunity that I'm working on currently that a vendor has procured a contract that we could potentially benefit from. And in that model where the vendors are bringing in the funds and being awarded these contracts, and then if you get their service, you're able to participate in that grant. That's exactly what we want to do as a new association, right? So those are the ideas that you develop by having meeting people in person in non business settings, more casual settings, right? You can have these conversations and oh, what do you do? Oh, you're doing this? Oh, wow, how does that apply to us? Right? Those are the things that people are speaking about at these conferences and or more social type events.
Well, that's it for us, folks, this week. I hope it was informative and I hope you enjoyed the back and forth that Sasha and I try to bring to the table. Make it worth your while. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We always love to hear from our listeners. I am still amazed at the areas where I get feedback from our listeners at the least expected events, locations. So I love that. I love that, absolutely. But thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care.
This has been the Home Care Forum podcast with your hosts, Sasha Guillaume and Amina Poricanin. Have a good one.